Hello there and welcome to another Ramble review, and today we're looking at No More Heroes 2 for Nintendo Switch. The basic premise here is that Travis Touchdown has been away from the whole assassination thing for a good long while, but he's brought back in by the brother of the first guy he killed in part 1. After Travis easily dispatches this dude, Sylvia shows up and informs him now he's number 51 of the UAA list. And of course the list has grown since Travis has been gone for so long. Travis is a little reluctant to do all this crap again, but Sylvia teases him with hot yoga sex, and Travis is all for it. So now he's going to try to get number 1 to get some, again, hot yoga sex. So basically, it's the same plot from part 1, but you find out that there's a little twist to it as Bishop, who's Travis's best friend apparently from Beefhead Video, gets horribly murdered. Travis is pissed the fuck off about this and wants to know, how he gets revenge. Sylvia says the person who orchestrated the whole thing is the number 1 on the UAA, and Travis now is not only fighting for the Punani, he's also fighting for revenge. And there's your plot. It's still pretty paper thin like the first one, but they just added the revenge angle to it. Again, you're here mostly for how wacky this gets, because it's still crazy ass bosses, the same type of dialogue from the first one too, that corny over the top, the blood talking and fuck and shit and blah blah blah. If you dug the dialogue from the first one, you're gonna like this one too, basically, which is why I enjoyed it. I will say the bosses were a bit better in the first one. As the bosses in this one, while there are some, visually interesting fights and everything, that's not gone. They don't get as much lines as the original bosses get. Like sometimes they'll just say like one line, 1 or 2 or 3 lines, and then the fight starts, and then you dispatch them without them even saying anything afterwards. That's it. They're dead, and that's it. At least in the original, every boss had like a little intro, and then also had at least a little bit of lines before they kick the bucket. This one is kind of like 50-50. There's still those type of bosses in this game, but it's not as much as it was in the first one. So you do notice that. Also, like how they're presented is also a little different, because like in the first one, when you would go to fight them, you get like their name is said, and you hear like a little quote and everything. Here you just basically go right in and that's it. You don't even know their name until after you kill them. You do get a little bit, I guess, an explanation of them, or at least of their personality, with these like in between scenes of it's basically Sylvia. She's like talking on like a sex phone thing, and she talks about the character a little bit. So it helps out with some of those bosses that don't get that much. But otherwise, that's basically all you're getting. Thankfully, like I said, there are other bosses that do get a little bit more lines to say, but kind of sucks that some of them kind of just get wiped and you don't even learn their names at the last minute. Travis also, he develops a tiny bit more in this one too. Like there's a certain line that like he knows the assassins are fucked up people, but we're still human, that type of thing. So like, again, he develops a little bit more, but he's still the same perverted, violent guy you remember from the first one. Again, after all, he's doing this not just for revenge, he's doing it for some sex. So, they don't like take away the silliness and over the topness of the first game. It's still here in full force. There's even a giant fucking robot battle. So you don't have to worry about that situation. It's just that at least you get at least a little bit, tiny bit more development for Travis. Now it's time to get into the gameplay, and it's still basically the same mechanics. You lock on, you swing your beam katanas, you take the guys out, but it feels very different. For instance, it feels a little bit more faster and more smooth compared to the first one. And the camera is a certain angle, but it feels weird when you're going from part 1 and 2 to this, and you see the camera angle. It feels real weird, but it's not a bad weird. It actually like it increases the intensity of the fight, makes it feel more, I guess, actiony or epic. I can't really figure out the word or what it is, but that's what the camera does, the way it's set up, and you move so much smoother and quicker, and it all feels much better than the first game. Also, what's also changed is how the beam katanas are handled here. Like in the first one, I'm sorry for saying like so much. As in the first one, where basically every time you got an upgrade, the other beam katana became completely useless because the next upgrade was way better. Here, they actually all have their own positive and weaknesses. Besides the first one, the first beam katana, the original, is just crap. Once you get the second one, don't even bother. But as I think it's the MK3, which is basically the green saber, that one's a good. It's good at slashing, good speed, good damage output. You get another one called the Peon, which is like a super slow beam katana, but it's like super powerful. And as you attack, its reach actually increases. It gets like really big. I'm pretty sure there's a dick joke there somewhere. And then the last one, which is a double beam katana, which actually is a bit more faster than the rest of them. So you could like chain combos more and so on and so forth. It doesn't do as much damage, but it's much faster. So that's what you're sacrificing there. So you could change between these speed katanas whenever you feel like it during combat, which is fantastic. You don't have to make a decision really. You just click the button and it shows up. And what's also great is the whole animation of you taking it out and lining it up and everything. You can't get hurt. So there's no BS of, oh, I gotta take it. I want to change my beam katana. I want to mess around with this one this time. You don't have to worry about someone smacking you over the head and getting a cheap hit off you. This part still has the slow-mo dodge attack. You know, when you get an attack, you can just slow it down, just wail on the enemy. And it also has the parry attack that lets you do your charge attack instantly instead of just doing it manually. It's still in the game, but it's not as helpful here, mainly because the combat is so much more better and slicker, I guess is the word for it. And also it feels like the timing for the slow-mo thing has decreased, so it was a little harder to pull off. I rarely did it when I played. I probably did it like only a handful of times. But it's fine because as in the first one where I was insanely helpful, here it's not that important as it was before. One of the things that you notice as well is there's a tiger on the lower right hand corner of the screen, and if you notice, as you keep whacking enemies and killing them and such, it starts getting up and charging up and everything. But once it's full, you just press a button and you turn to basically Almighty Travis, which you're super fast and you do a bunch of hits in a couple of seconds. This is great if you want to just, like I said, do a bunch of hits and cause a lot of damage really, really quickly. It only lasts for a few seconds, but this is what you'll be doing a lot in the game. You just got to be sure not to get hit, because the more times you get hit, the lion just gets like, and you have to charge it up all over again. So there's some mechanic that you got to be sure you don't suck. As long as you don't suck, you should be pulling this off a lot. Another thing also brought back from the first one is the slot machine mechanic, where if you after you do your death blow, the slots go and Travis powers up. Some of them do come back from the first one, such as the slow-mo and the one when he shoots beams out of his beam katanas, or ball beams or whatever. A new one, like two of the new ones that I saw, I'm not sure, I think it's only 4 of them. There could be others that never popped up for me, but the other 2 ones I saw was an instant kill one where he charges up and just basically blows up his beam katana and it kills anyone that's around them. Another one, he turns to the fucking tiger and you can just maul everyone in one hit, and it's super satisfying seeing everyone getting killed like that. They actually, I don't know if it's just me and my luck or whatever, it feels like the slot mechanic here happens way more than the first one. In part 1, it only happened for me like 3 times maybe. Here it happened at least 10 or more times I was getting the slot machine thing. So That was fucking cool. I'm happy they actually increased it a little more, so I could, you could do these and everything that you have much more fun. Turning into a tiger is just fucking fun. Also, I don't know if it's me, but it feels like the whole jerk off mechanic to recharge your beam katana is a little bit more generous here, because it felt like it wasted really fast in part one, but in this one it feels like your beam katana lasts way more, that I rarely had to jerk my katana to recharge it. It only if I did something like incredibly stupid, or if I blocked a really big attack or something like that. So people who had a problem with that in the first one, well, it's pretty much fixed here, and you rarely have to jerk your katana to get it on full blast. Another addition to combat is different characters to play as. You get to play as Shinobu and Henry. Shinobu gets 2 full levels with boss fights, while Henry just gets 1 straight up boss fight, and that's it. What's great is they both feel very different from one another and Travis, so it doesn't just feel like someone just did a quick reskin and called it a day. Shinobu, she of course has a samurai. She has her own little sword. She actually could jump, which they tried to put in her levels in boss fights. It's a varying successes. Like, the jumping is not the best. Like, I give it to them for trying. Like, it's kind of cool. Like, hey, she jump, so let's add some things to platforms to jump. But sometimes it can come off kind of clunky. And she moves pretty slow too. Quick hint: I suggest we want to move around fast, charge her sword and walk. She moves much faster that way. And when you walk and charge, you actually do a different attack than just charging and standing and attacking, because she has a beam move and she has a quick dash move. But yeah, she feels completely different. They even give her her own special save scene. Instead of sitting on the toilet, she's taking a shower. So you get some side boob and butt that you can look at if you want to. Yes, that's that. But yeah, I do, like I said, I do appreciate the 2 playable characters. It freshens things up. And I kind of wish you got a little more with Henry than just that 1 boss fight. But at least they give you 2 full levels with Shinobu and 2 boss fights to mess around with. They also, of course, work the same as Travis in the sense of that, your thing does have a energy bar and you gotta charge it and stuff. But besides that, yeah, that's pretty much it. One of the biggest changes to No More Heroes 2 is there's no longer open world. Yes, so you don't have to be bored driving around your bike in a basically bland world to get to point A to point B anymore. Everything is just a menu and you pick it and that's it. I do like the fact that when you do pick something, you're not inside right away. You still hear your bike roaring, and it shows the outside, and then you go in and there you go. So there's still like, presentation there to look like, wow, this still looks nice and everything like that. What's available to do is, first there's your motel room, where you could, now you can actually walk around freely. You don't have to like go to menus and everything while you're in the motel room. You're actually free to walk around, not go over a garbage can full of cum tissues. Your room is kind of empty, but you do find treasure chests. Instead of masks this time, you find collectibles, which basically clog up your room and everything. So like action figures and posters and punching bags and stuff like that start to build up in your room and everything. Your cat is there that you can still mess around with. This time, there's, instead of just being there just to be like, oh, cute, this time the cat has gotten way fat, so the goal is to slim them down. And after you achieve this, you do this by doing little mini games with the little thing, making the cat jump, massaging the cat, picking up the cat. You lose the weight lifting, and then you got to feed them to make sure they don't get depressed. Once you reach the goal, you get a brand new move, so that's something to work towards too. You can also play a game that was in the first one that acted as kind of like a dream sequence for Travis when he was traveling. It's a little bit more visually complete here, And this game is based on an anime that Travis likes a lot. You can tell by his t-shirts and his posters. And after you beat the game once, which is not long at all, that hard, and there's like 4 or 5 different characters you could choose from, you get actually an intro to said anime. They actually made the original intro for this made up anime in this video game, which is actually a nice, cool little touch. There's also books you can read that pop up every once in a while if they do a mission and such. That gives you new wrestling moves. Again, yeah, wrestling moves are here. I forgot to mention that in the gameplay thing, but the wrestling moves are here. Oh, also, I forgot to mention that in the gameplay thing too. Melee is a little bit more better in here. Before it was just one part charge punch. Here you can kick and punch really fast to daze the enemy and do your wrestling moves a little easier. So that's a nice little addition there. Besides the motel, there's also the clothing shop is back, Area 51. I will say the clothing here sucks compared to the first one. Like, I liked a lot of the t-shirts in part 1. Here they are severely lacking. Same goes for the jackets and pants and everything. Basically, once I got the purple outfit, I stuck to that. Maybe switch a shirt like here and there, and the glove too. But yeah, the clothing here is pretty lacking compared to the first one, which is kind of depressing. It was always fun dressing up Travis, but here I kept them the same most of the time because how lacking the clothing. It's not lacking number, but just lacking quality because a lot of them suck. The other thing here out to do is Naomi is back, and she has 2 weapons you could buy from. Before she had a little bit more to buy from, but this time around she doesn't really have that much. Once you buy 2 weapons from her, you're pretty much done with her. Heads up, there is this weird ass glitch in the Switch version where if the weapon will, after you buy a weapon, sometimes it will reappear again to buy. Don't waste your money. If you know you have that weapon, just move on. The last building you could go in and mess around with is Ryan's gym. There's 2 mini games that help increase your stamina and your power. One is a treadmill game, which you got to run back and forth and make sure not to bust your face on the floor. And the other one is the last building you can go in to mess around with is Ryan's gym. Here you can do 2 mini games to increase your stamina and overall strength. One is a treadmill where you got to run back and forth and not to fall flat on your face. And the other one is a punching and kicking game, which you got to punch and kick dumbbells Ryan throws at you while he also blows kisses at you, which you got to duck because if you get hit, you get stunned. And those are really it. I had no real problem with the treadmill one. I found that one insanely freaking easy, especially since these mini games are like really short. The one I had a problem with was the dumbbell one, and not for the problem that maybe people have with it, because people hate these 2 mini games for some reason. They're like, oh, they're insanely hard. Like, it's so cheap. I didn't see it that way, especially with the treadmill. The dumbbell one, Ryan throws in the same exact pattern every time you fail. The only thing that changes, I believe, is when he throws really big dumbbells and they could hit you in your head and leg. It's kind of like a mix-up. Those are the only things that kind of switches, but everything else is exactly the same. The main problem I have with the dumbbell thing is the game doesn't tell you when you fail. Because once you get hit a certain amount of times, even if you complete the whole thing, you still fucking fail. And the game doesn't fucking tell you for some stupid ass reason. The game should have say, you failed, you got hit this many times, or at least have a fucking counter. I don't know why you couldn't program a counter on the side to let you know when just stop caring and restart and try again. So yeah, that's the only problem I have with it. Even though it gets challenging, like at the last one, it gets really hard. That was my biggest gripe with it. But besides that, I have no problems with them. The whole NES look of the gym stuff actually carries over to the side jobs. You remember them side jobs in the first game? Well, they're here as well, but these are a little bit different. You got things like bug hunting, grilling burgers, laying down some pipe, and some other ones. But yeah, they use the old school graphical style for those, and it's pretty cute. I didn't care, as you heard before, I didn't care for them and the first game, and here it's kind of the same, but I didn't find these as like bad as in the first game. As I don't know, something about them just wasn't as annoying, but yet some people hate them compared to the first one. I don't know why. My personal favorite ones that seem also easy is the bug hunts, the grilling meat, and the driving the pizza delivery. What's also great is that some of these, no, most of them have levels to them. And if you want, you can just do one level and quit, and you keep the money you get. Hell, even if you fail, you keep the money you already earned. So you never feel like you wasted your time if you pass or fail, or you can just do some and just quit midway or whatever, and you still keep the money. So at least there's that. Of course, you're doing all these side jobs for cold hard cash. But cash is kind of handled differently here than the first one, because as I remembered, the first one you got to pay for the ranking battles. Here, not so much. You can go right to the ranking fights without paying a fucking dime. The money is used for clothing, the beam katanas, and the stat increases in the gym. That's the only thing you need money for. Of course, the beam katanas and the stats are really important, so you should still do those. But at least you don't have to earn a lot of cash and do the fight, and then also save money to do the other stuff. This one is just mainly focused on the other stuff, not the fights at all. Another thing added are revenge missions. These are missions that help you track down the goons who you see in the beginning blow Bishop's head away. So you get revenge on the guys who pulled the trigger, and you also get revenge on the guy who set up the whole thing. So that's awesome. These are just quick little fights. One is usually just kill the goons, and then the next one will be kill the boss guy. In this, all this is all done in a set amount of time. So we have those as well. There are no more assassination gigs in this, which kind of suck because those were really helpful in earning money really fast. But since you don't have to earn that much money for including the ranking matches, it doesn't hurt as much. As far as I'm concerned, this game does a big graphical leap from the first one. You can still prefer the art style the game has, even though, at least compared to this, it looks stiff to me. The models look much better in this one. They're much more animated, much more detailed. Even though, as I said, the bosses don't get too many lines, I still love their design. Like that's something that's never disappointing. The designs are still really cool and interesting. Everyone looks great. Travis still looks great. Sylvia still looks great. Shinobu still looks great. And Henry, everyone just looks really, really good. I like the afterglow that beam katanas make when you slice someone or when you're attacking them, or when you beat a boss and it's slow-mos and you still see the bright color of the beam. Like, that's cool. Like, it doesn't cheap out because like the green katana leaves a green stain, the red one leaves a red. Like, that's dope. I really, really like that. And they also added boob physics. You're gonna notice this right away when you see Sylvia for the first time. I was like, man, that is some grade 8 power right there. You get some boob physics, which I have nothing against. It's just funny as all. The levels themselves look distinct from one another, just like the characters. So it never feels samey as you're going around doing your thing. So yeah, that's pretty fucking cool as well. The voice acting is still really good. There's no Japanese voice acting if you wanted that, but the voice acting is still top notch. Even though they're saying all the corny over the top dialogue, it's still really good. Thumbs up, yeah. There are some people who are kind of bleh on this sequel, and they feel part 1 is the superior game, and there's no way in fucking hell I can agree with that. As far as my thoughts go, I feel the game looks better than part 1. The characters are so much more detailed. I love the lighting of the beam katanas, booby physics. Like it's a lot. Like the visuals did a good jump. It was like you could like it feels like a sequel in visuals. Combat is way better as well. It feels so much more slick and frenetic. It feels so much more fun compared to the first one. And then you have the whole, getting rid of the overworld. Uh, some people say, "Oh, it's losing its personality and identity." I if that was a personality identity, thank God they got rid of that because it was fucking a boring personality and identity. All they did was just waste fucking time, and they cut that fat. Thank God. I know it is in part 3. It's gonna be there, but hopefully they learn something and don't make it boring like part 1. Maybe it'll make you more open to the whole open world thing. But as it stands right now in the current time, I prefer the overworld of part 2 to part 3 because overworld of part 2 to part 1 because it wastes less of your time and lets you get to the good shit much faster. The side jobs, like I said, they kind of suck in both of them. But these are a little bit more enjoyable, and as I said before, you don't need to play them as much to get what you want because you don't have to worry about the ranking fights. So yeah, this to me is a great sequel to a already awesome game. It improves in certain aspects. Some of them they don't. Like I said, the only thing that I can see people debating with that is worthwhile debate, I guess, is the bosses. Because like I said, I felt like the bosses were better in part 1 because they got a little more time to chat and show their personality even when they're fucking dying. And this one, it didn't give that to every boss. Only some of the bosses got that. So yeah, the bosses are kind of lacking, at least to me, in the second one compared to the first. But everything else, as I mentioned, is a vast improvement in part 2. So if you were wondering, hey, should I waste my time in playing part 2? Because maybe you heard something that it's not really that good. Part 1 is superior. Yes, play the fucking game. It is worth your time. It took me about, I have to say, 10 or 11 hours, which is a little shorter than the first game, but that's mean because they cut out the overworld of you traveling back and forth and having to gain even more money to pay for the ranking fights and everything else. As I said, this one you don't need to pay the ranking fights, just worry about the other stuff. Also, I forgot to mention, this game does work with the waggle. So if you want to play this how it was originally intended to play this on the Wii with the whole waggle, it works perfectly fine. And as in the first game, as I said, the non-dock version of it, you want to play it on the go, it works perfectly fine too. It looks great and it plays wonderful, so you're good either way. You want to play with the waggle, you want to play on undocked, you're set no matter what. Replay value is the same as the first one. So there's a new game plus that you could bring over all your weapons and just play through the game again on a harder difficulty that you unlock. And if you miss anything through the levels, like the little treasure chest that you can get, that's really it. But yeah, it's the same shit as the first one when it comes to the play value. So I hope you didn't mind my ramble for this awesome game. Go play it in part 1 if you haven't done that yet. And for gamer's sake, keep gaming.